This is the brand new Renault Clio. Given that every single component part of this car is completely new, it is very impressive how much of the design characteristic and the DNA of the Clio has managed to remain within this car. That said, it looks much more assertive and sculptural. Coming around to the side, and that sporty dynamism continues. Just look at the way this headlight wraps through into the side with the accent line for the indicator cutting in lower down to the bumper. It really makes the whole front of this car feel very much included in the side design as well. This really does look amazingly dynamic for a small vehicle. Coming through around to the rear portion of the car, we have an echo of the way that the front headlights work. When we're looking at the rear lights, they're also wrapped into the side, again, to give more dynamism to the look and feel of this design. Visually, aesthetically, I think this design is great. It feels contemporary, it feels fresh, it feels sporty, and I challenge anyone to say that they're not going to feel more than happy pulling up in one of these. The engine startup begins with a 3-cylinder engine, 1 litre, 75 horsepower with 95 Newton meters of torque. That's going to come in with a 5-speed gearbox. Then you can take it up a little bit with a turbocharged 1 litre unit. That's a TCE, 99 horsepower, 160 Newton meters of torque. And I think right at the top of the line, you're going to be able to get a 1.3 litre petrol, 4-cylinder, 129 brake horsepower, and 240 Newton meters of torque. So that ought to give you more than a little bit of fun in a small runaround. Now don't forget, this car has lost a lot of weight from what came before, so you ought to be able to see more impressive fuel efficiency numbers. Wow. Whether you like that or not, you certainly can't complain that Renault haven't innovated when it comes to what they're doing with the interior on this new Clio. My goodness, that is really a radical change from what came before. I'm just going to hop in and see how the driving experience feels. Thomas, you're doing an amazing job of managing to cope with all of my really difficult demands while we're filming this. There we go. Okay. So the seat feels pretty standard, much as expected. If you're used to putting up a lot of miles in the predecessor, I don't think you're going to be disappointed or particularly blown away by your seating comfort. What has changed very much is your depth within the car. You might remember me mentioning when we were outside that a lot of the design cues look to me as if they've been borrowed from the SUV playbook. Well, the driving experience has obviously reached into the same manual. Small cars are never going to drop in popularity, but the way that we relate to them does change over time. So here I feel very deep into this vehicle for a smaller car. The dashboard actually feels very high. I'm 5'10" or 178 centimeters. As you can see, I have plenty of headroom here. I would say a good 2 inches spare between the top of my head and the roof. I have a long torso, so realistically, if you're about 6'2", I would say you're going to still be comfortable in this car. So we have now a fully digital cockpit. Really, that's delivering us the latest of Renault's onboard software. Now, whether this is going to be your taste or not, it's clearly the future in terms of how cars are interacting. It does sit very obviously in the middle of the dashboard. So I think it's going to be important that you like that visually as a feature. I'm really struggling to understand how you could have integrated it any better at this price point. That's the issue. Once you start wanting to embed displays into dashboards, things start getting very expensive very quickly. So, although this wouldn't be my first choice, and I'm not in love with the styling, when I consider the compromise that's involved in making a smaller car, I think I can live with it. It does look fresh, it does look different, it does look energetic. So, in keeping with the design, at least it's different. These controls are all nice and easy to access, and all of the knobs feel of good quality and they are well positioned. Further down, I'm very happy to see that we've kept some features which for me in a small car are a must. An aux in for the stereo, that's still great. 2 USB charge points, that's brilliant. And I'm very happy to see we still have a 12-volt charge. Can you realistically sit 4 grown-ups in it? Well, let's take a seat and find out. Well, it is a small car, and I think Renault have made good use of the interior room. For me, for a small car, I always want the priority in the front. After all, even the most busy parent is not driving around with all of their children all of the time. So the driver's experience really is paramount for me. Well, that's fine. I like the way it's tucked away visually, but obviously I think you're going to get your hand more than a little bit dirty on that spot in the winter. So I'm not sure if there are any plans to add keyless entry at this stage. I suspect not. But I think you'll just have to get used to touching that without touching too much of anything else. Now, we have a variable load system here, so if you want as close entry as you can get for your loads, obviously you have this shelf, but you also have this lower area as well, and that gives us a load space of 330 to 391 litres of load. So that's our first look at the brand new Renault Clio. What do we think? Well, the new styling, I think, is absolutely superb. It really sets the car off and suggests to you that it's ready for the future. Hopefully, the French market's going to like it as much as I do. I think probably it will. I really like the slight reduction in the length. I think that adds to its dynamism, and the massive saving of weight that they've put into the car should be returning some impressive fuel efficiency figures as well. The interior is a nice refresh. I'm not quite sure that I'm in love with the way that the infotainment system's been integrated, but it certainly makes the car look modern today. Question is, how will it appear throughout its life? Well, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer on that to find out. But of course, the proof of the pudding is always in the drive. If this is going to be as dynamic and sporty as the appearance, then I think we have an awful lot to look forward to. If you have any comments or questions, pop them below. Please subscribe, and we hope we'll see you again soon.